I am Giovanni Maria Riccio. I work for Ilex law firm, and I will start this presentation. Just let me say that Ilex is the partner which is in charge for the data protection and security and ethical aspects related to the ARCADIAN project. In this presentation, we will focus your attention expressly on the facial recognition, and so notably on the notion of biometric data and on what is facial recognition. Biometric data belong to the personal data. Personal data pursuant to Article 4 of the GDPR, of the General Data Protection Regulation, are all the data which directly or indirectly make reference and so allow to recognize an individual, so a physical person. Biometric data are notably the data which are, as said in the definition of Article 4, resulting from specific technical processing relating to the physical, physiological, or behavioral characteristic of a natural person, which allow or confirm the unique identification of that natural person, such as facial images or dactyloscopic data. So it means that facial images are a specification of biometric data. So facial images belong to biometric data. With the term facial images, we make reference to any case in which a specific device, a specific technology may recognize the identity of a subject based on his face. There are at least 4 phases in the facial recognition techniques. The first case, the first phase is that of detection. So in this case, there is a machine which scans the image of a specific person. Then there is a second phase, which is that of the identification. In this case, this phase is compared to selected images which are stored by the machines or by the technology. This is a very crucial aspect for the ARCADIAN project. We will go further on this aspect. Then there is the third phase, which is that of the verification. In this case, there is a comparison between two different images, the one which is captured by the machine and that which is stored by the technology. So in this case, the technology makes the match between the faces, or rather the points of the face which are collected and stored into the devices with that which have been captured. As said, this is a very important aspect in the ARCADIAN-IoT project, because as Fabiola Irashi will also point out further, in this case, the ARCADIAN technologies do not make a mass surveillance detection of individuals. Next slide, please. Okay, thank you very much. And so this is very important also in the light of the European Artificial Intelligence Act. As you probably know, the Artificial Intelligence Act has been approved by the European Parliament on last June. It has not been in force. We are still waiting for the trilogue, so there are some other steps to be taken. This is a very crucial piece of legislation for the European Union because it is the first regulation, not only in Europe, regarding the artificial intelligence. This is very important because one of the main purpose of the Artificial Intelligence Act is that of avoiding a mass control made by the artificial intelligence. Just let me mention, for example, the mass surveillance techniques. So, for example, the machines which have been used in many countries in Europe as well as outside Europe, which collects thousands of faces, or in general thousands of personal data of individuals. As said, this is not the case of Arcadian, but let's go one step to another. What is the legal framework which is applicable to our project? As said, I only mentioned probably the last step. The last step is the European Artificial Intelligence Act. The main regulation is the famous GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation, so the regulation number 679 of the European Parliament, which have been completed also by some guidelines which have been issued by the European Data Protection Board on the processing of personal data through video devices, and by guidelines of 2001 on virtual voice assistant. So both the collection of data through video devices, as well as the analysis of virtual voice assistants, are pieces of biometric data regulation. So this is very important again for the aims of the Arcadian project. There is also another crucial regulation, which is the regulations, the two regulations which are applicable to civil drones. Probably, as you probably know, the ARCADIAN-IoT uses drones in order to make some operations. And in these operations, these drones are used for the collection of personal and biometric data, and so for the facial recognition. This piece of legislation, so the regulation number of 947 and 945 are applicable to our project. But let me say that this is something which is of minor importance, in the sense that the only point of this regulation is that they just holds that in the case of drones, personal data regulations should be protected, should be took into consideration. Let's make a step further to the Artificial Intelligence Act. Of course, in the limited time of this seminar, we do not have the possibility to consider all the single provisions which have been held by the Artificial Intelligence Act. Just one aspect which is absolutely relevant for our project, and it is what we could call the pyramid of risks in the Artificial Intelligence Act. We have 4 types of risk: the unacceptable risk, the high risk, the limited risk, and the minimal risk. Unacceptable risks are those which are, for example, in the case of social scoring, in the case of mass surveillance. The high risks are that which are included into the law enforcement. So, for example, also the facial recognition made by police or by other authorities. The access to the employment also. The limited risk are that related to, for example, to the impersonification, the chatbots, the emotional recognitions. These are very popular, but according to the European Commission, these are limited risks at least. The minimal risk are all the remaining uses. So we have to consider the specific case of Arcadian IoT, in the sense that we said that the Arcadian IoT allow the recognition of a specific person through a facial detection, through a facial recognition. So there is this drone. This drone may recognize, for example, Valentin into a mass of persons. May we consider this as a mass surveillance? Obviously not, because in the case of Arcadian IoT, first of all, we do not collect the data related to the mass. Secondly, we only store, in order to make the recognition, we only store the data of the persons to be recognized. So, for example, just imagine that there is this drone which is flying on a mass. This drone just recognizes a specific person and only collects the data of that specific person. Fabiola, may you to the previous slide, please? Thank you very much. So this is also very important, another aspect which will be focused by Mrs. Hirashi in a while. The most important issue is that all the Arcadian project, pursuant to the Artificial Intelligence Act provisions, is based on an aspect which is that of transparency. All the people which participate to our project are specifically informed of which personal data we will collect, on how we will use this personal data, and so on. So, as you can see into this slide, I hope that you can read because it's too narrow to me. The Arcadian project aims to promote innovative, decentralized solutions for trust and identity management in IoT services. So again, it is very important to point out that we do not make any kind of mass surveillance. We only use devices in order to recognize through biometric data specific individuals. In particular, the domain A, which is the most important part of our project related to this presentation, is organized by the consortium, and it involves the use of the biometric technologies, as said, the drones and the facial recognition. So the only thing that we do is just using drones, collecting specific data, make a match between this data and those which have been stored. Okay, and this is very important, of course, for the general purpose of the project, which is that of ensuring a specific trust in case of emergency situation. Okay, so next slide, please. Then I will leave the floor to Fabiola Hirashi. As said, this is very important. We collect data of specific individuals. Those individuals have provided the preliminary consent. So we only collect data through the consent of these individuals, these data subjects. We do not collect any other data. And most of all, we do not store any other data. Okay, so the legal basis, which is highlighted in Article 6 of the GDPR, Article 6 states that you may only process personal data where there is a specific legal basis. Then it is absolutely respected by the project. As said, apologize for being repetitive, but this data are only uses in order to recognize specific person. For example, if I participated to the project, I have provided my consent to the project in order to collect my data. These data are stored. These data are used in order to match the data which are collected by the drones in case of emergency situation with those which have been previously collected. If, for example, Fabiola Iraci do not participate in the project, she cannot be recognized. But very easily, because we do not have the data of Fabiola in order to make this match. This is why we cannot consider this kind of use of technologies of drones through facial recognition a case of mass surveillance technology. And so we are outside the material scope of the Artificial Intelligence Act. I will leave the floor now to Fabiola Iraci in order to complete the presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks, Giovanni. And can you hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thanks, Valentin. So it is clear that the ARCADIAN-IoT technology does not involve any mass surveillance processing. But actually, due to the fact that the ARCADIAN-IoT technology process personal data and biometric data just only related to the people that give their consent, there are some legal issues related to the legal framework that Giovanni Maria Riccio already talked about that we have to consider. So, in order to ensure the full compliance of the ARCADIAN-IoT technologies and the use of the ARCADIAN-IoT technologies, as the legal partner of this project, we studied all the technologies and the risk that occur related to the use of the technology. And so we recommended some technical and also organization measures to be adopted, to be implemented, especially in the context of the GDPR. The ARCADIAN-IoT technology engaged only to process the data in compliance with the principle of the GDPR, such as data minimization, full transparency of information, data security, and data accuracy, and also the security standards based by ISO, so the certification. As already Giovanni Maria Riccio said, the data concerning the biometric data of an individual of a data subject are processed only and exclusively based on the consent of the individual, and in any case not stored by the technology. All the AI systems in its use are supervised by humans, as well as protected by a cybersecurity system, as detailed above in the next slide. Also, for all those people who decides to use the ARCADIAN technology, they received a privacy policy in which the processing of their data and their biometric data is explained with specific regard of data retention. As we already said, none of their data are stored or are stored in relation to other also data from the people that are present near the person, the individual that is detected, as well as the functioning of ARCADIAN-IoT technologies. Due to the fact that these technologies are innovative and so are probably can be related to some risk for the rights and the freedoms of individuals, ARCADIAN-IoT engaged to draft a data protection impact assessment in order to assess the level of risk and implement some security measures that help to lower the risk. Moreover, further measures that ARCADIAN-IoT technology used, the drones that are used by the ARCADIAN-IoT only start filming and recording when the user of the application, as Giovanni Maria Riccio already explained, has been identified by the drone. And other appropriate technical measures are adopted to ensure the security of the personal data processed. And in order to ensure that these technical measures are adequate to the process, so in order to assess the functioning of technologies, the partner of ARCADIAN-IoT consortium organized a pilot based on the domain A. And to perform this pilot, some volunteers decided to participate and giving their consent to participate in the pilot, receiving a privacy policy and knowing about the functioning of the technology. An important point to the ones who participate in the ARCADIAN pilot, so the volunteer in the pilot, all their data are used only for training the technology to evaluate the risk and to assess the risk, and are not disclosed outside the project. I will just leave to you the slide with all the partners of the ARCADIAN-IoT Consortium with that the ILEX Studio Legale collaborates with in order to assess all the technology under a legal and ethical perspective. We are open to all the questions. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Giovanni. Thank you, Fabiola, for your presentation. I would like to ask the audience if there are any questions regarding this. If not, I have a question for Giovanni. We discussed also about this privacy by design. Could you walk us through what this means and to ensure data protection and privacy?
Yes, certainly, Victor. Valentin, the point of the data protection by design is one of the principles which is highlighted by the GDPR. It means that in the design of the architecture of a technology, you have to design this technology following and respecting the data protection principles. So it means that the evaluation of the respect of the privacy legislation is not something that should be done at the end of the making of the technology, but should be made in advance. And so this is the approach that we are using into our project.